Alright guys, here's a badger hole just off the side of the grid here and not too far from my house. I'm going to show you how to set a connibear style trap or a bridger body catch style trap for a badger. Okay, so here's your connibear trap. This side's already got the safety on it, as you can see. This is how it'll be when it's fired sometimes. It can be all mangled, twisted. So what you want to do is get both loops of the spring on the pivot side where the pin is. I'll swivel it out. And what I usually do, if they're soft, this is an older trap, so it might be a little bit soft, but I want to bring these together and get the safety loop around them. Okay, so I want my safety loop set closest to the ring here. And so what I'll do is I'll get on the ground usually, and when they're brand new, they're really hard. But I get the grooves of my hand in there, and I'll push down. And this one's pretty soft, but I'll get my hand around it like that, and I'll keep pulling. I have the most leverage on the outside here, so it's easiest to get it on the outside. And I recommend wearing gloves so you don't pinch your hand. Get your safety swung around, clip it on, okay? It's as easy as that, but again, this trap's an old trap, and it's very easy to open this trap. There's some that are brand new, they're almost impossible, very hard. You gotta use your foot, but you can get these big pliers to set them. But if you're an experienced trapper, you can still set them after a few days of using them. Gets easier and easier, you get stronger. Sometimes the trigger's a little mangled. You can just straighten it out, make it like a nice Y or a V. Okay, now what you want to do is get it on the pivot points, your springs on the two pivot points where the pins are, and get your trigger locker, whatever they call that, the dog. Get your dog swung up around the bar so these two are going to meet. Your trigger and your dog will meet. And like to keep these horizontal. Squeeze the trap. So I just squeezed it shut. One tip you want to do is make sure your safety stay on. If your safety stay on and this slips out of my hands, it's not going to hurt me. But if a safety comes off, you'll get hit. Another pro tip is don't put your thumb, see how my thumb is locked in here? I have it like that right now because I don't plan on setting the trigger yet. But when I go to set my trigger, so there's two notches. There's two notches on there. Sometimes one's a little bit more of a sensitive set. I always just use the first one. But now the trap's set, the safeties are on, okay? If the animal comes through and hits this, it lifts up the dog and it fires the trap, okay? So pro tip that I do is once my trap is set in place, I leave it, this is called like a firm set. Once my trap is in place, what I'll do is I take my thumb, instead of hooking it under because you can get caught in it, but my safeties are still on, is I'll go like this. I keep my thumb out of it. That's way if it fires, it snaps past my hand. It doesn't lock my thumb in and snap my thumb in the trap. So I keep my thumb out using the D of my thumb here, and I'll squeeze the trap and I'll slightly lift that dog. So now that dog's floating. Make sure my safeties are on, and I slowly release pressure with my hands. There, and that's called a hair trigger. So you can see how the trigger's swinging. Now when that badger comes up and he's pushing on it, he only has to, see that? How he only has to barely move it and that trap's firing. So that works good when, sometimes if it's firmly set, he has to move it, and then it fires. So he feels that pressure. Sometimes it scares animals. So for a smart animal, you always want to hair trigger that trap. And like I said, make sure your safeties are on. If your safeties are on, you'll barely get hit. It'll just scare you a little bit, but keep your thumb out of there. It can't grab you. Okay. All right, so what you want to do is, my trap's a little big for this hole, for the specific hole. So I have a 10 or 12 inch trap. Probably an 8 or 8 inch trap would work better for this size of hole. But what I'm going to do to make it work is I'm going to square the hole off. So I'm knocking out these corners, making it kind of flush right there. I'm going to pull out as much dirt as I can out of the hole. Okay, so those corners are all flush, squared off nicely. So when the trap fires, the jaws are here and they come together here now. So I have to make sure I have swing room so that it swings nicely. Okay, and you kind of want a firm base so the trap doesn't sink in the dirt too much, because that can slow the trap down too, and you can get a bad catch on the badger. So kind of pack that a little bit, right like that. Okay, now what you do is, I got these 2 metal rods. You can use pieces of wood, like anything really, sticks to put in there. I just brought the 2 rods just to show you guys the video here. But so what you want to do is push your arms down like that, keep your trap set, make sure your safeties are still on so that you don't get your fingers snapped in the trap. Now I'll move this to where I have to move it up out of the hole, because my trap's so big, to where when my jaws fire, it's gonna miss the edge of his hole here. So it'll be somewhere in there. Now what I can do, to firm the trap up, you can move your arms down, press them into the dirt a little bit. Again, make sure your safeties are on. Mine keeps slipping up there, you can see. Okay, so it's set like that. Now what you wanna do is put your sticks in. You can put them very close. I'm putting them through my springs here. Put it close, because I got a little rod here. If I put it further out, the gap's so big, the trap can sit loose and sloppy. You want the trap to be as firm as possible, okay? So I'd probably put 1 on either side. Guys can do some fencing here too. So you can use some grass or some weeds, something, just to barricade this so he doesn't want to go through it. He doesn't want to come around here and go through and into his hole. He wants to come through here. So you can kind of make it more accessible to him and look better. You can clean it out a bit so it looks like more of a nice channel for him to go into, and leaving this brush here, or these weeds here, like this. Okay, so now what I'll do once that's set, again, I'll set my hair trigger so I keep my thumb out of the trap, pinch it up a bit. This is kind of a scarier part, because sometimes it can fire, but I slowly release my grip with still keeping my hand stiff, so in case it fires I can catch it. There, it's hair triggered. So your next step is to slide your safeties back, okay, and open your safeties. Do it on both sides, undo your safeties, okay? That trap's ready to catch a badger like that. Next thing you want to do though is stake your trap in, and I'm going to show you kind of a stake method. What we like to do sometimes if there's pets in the area is cover this all with the big tote, okay? Cover it with the tote, put a tire on top or something. If that badger's in the hole, you're gonna catch him. If not, then he's not gonna be in there, but we're banking that he's in his hole right now. That keeps dogs out of your traps, cats out of your traps, and it'll only catch your badger, okay? Staking your trap's very important. If you don't catch your badger good and he comes through, this is a big trap. If he comes through and you catch him around the body, you'll dig and dig and dig and dig, and you'll pull your stake out and he'll escape with your trap. So you want to have a good wire on your trap. This is kind of an old style setup. It's got a big loop. Usually what we attach to these is it's kind of a D, and it'll fit these stakes really nicely. So the way you want to stake it is, I'll stake it off to the side here, but just for sake of the video, I'll show you right here. You take these are the rods that we use. They're just washers welded on the end of a stake. You can use anything. You can use rebar bent over in a hook. Rebar would probably work really good. If you use one long piece of rebar, it'll probably work good depending on your ground and how hard your ground is. But where we are, it's very sandy. So what we like to do is I'll put a stake in, and I won't go straight vertical. I won't go straight vertical with the stake. What I'll do is I'll angle this stake. I'll pound that in, and I'll put this one in there, and I'll angle it back this way. So we got an X. So that way when he's pulling, if he's pulling this way, he's not gonna get it out. But if he pulls one way or the other, he can't pull the stakes out. And we do this for coyotes and everything, or coyotes and everything, just so we don't lose our traps in this sandy soil. So that's how you do it. Keep your fingers back. Good luck trapping. So your badger will come up. You'll hit this trigger. Whap. So you'll catch him around there. Hopefully around his neck. Sometimes you catch him around the body. If your trap's not set properly. So next what you want to do, it's kind of hard. Your badger's in your trap. It's a little bit awkward, but you can usually bend it up, bend his neck a little bit. Same thing, get your trap on, or your foot on him somehow. Hold your trap firm. And like I said, these traps are they're quite old. They're easy to do, but that's the gist of it. Do your one pan. Make sure your safety's in the right position, because sometimes you get it all the way down and you go, oh, my safety's not there to set. So I really push on the inside really quite hard, pushing hard, and there. And get your springs back in your pivots, open your trap up, remove your animal. And your trap's ready to set. You can leave your trap like this to store it and use this many, many, many times. If your trigger ever breaks, you can buy new triggers too. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.